Ocean Flyer has inked a $145 million deal to finance the acquisition of seagliders. With us is Chief Executive Shah Aslam. Thanks for joining us, Shah. So this has taken a year to get over the line.
It has. We started this process last year when we were actually out in Rhode Island looking at the full-scale mock-up that Regent was displaying. It was pretty cool. And we ran into Monty there, had some good conversations. They followed that up by making a couple of trips out here to New Zealand, which was pretty cool. And, over the last probably 8 to 12 months, we've been sharing what our vision for transport in New Zealand is with seagliders, and it was very appealing to them. Their strategy aligned with it, and here we are today.
Yeah, what does $145 million buy you?
So the $145 million, as you would recall, 2 years ago, when we announced Ocean Flyer, we said the deal is worth $700 million. So that $145 million is the first tranche of debt that we were looking for. That helps us acquire multiple seagliders starting mid-decade. So that's the beauty of this.
Okay, so multiple, how many will you get?
We're obviously keeping it semi-confidential, but look, in other words, to put it, we'll have enough to move up to 1 million passengers or about 43 million kgs of cargo on an annual basis. So a significant number of seagliders. Obviously, the smaller ones, the 12-seater ones, that's what we're starting off with. So those are the ones we'll be receiving up front.
And where and when will you plan to operate?
So we're still aiming for that mid-decade timeline that we've always discussed. Starting point, look, it's fair to say Auckland is the biggest market in the country, the most population. There's a lot of regions around Auckland that could use direct connectivity into Auckland. We've finalized about 2 regions at the moment. We're in conversations with them, and hopefully later on in the year we'll be able to announce the first routes.
Okay. And how do you plan to raise the additional capital needed?
That's an ongoing process. I mean, as we've always said, that we'll receive our seaglider deliveries in different tranches. So starting mid-decade all the way up to about 2030, 2031 every year, we anticipate receiving seagliders. So as we get closer to those timelines, we'll keep announcing further deals. But I think the good part about this deal and announcing it, I guess, 2 years out is that it gives us a lot of confidence. It gives, hopefully, the population of New Zealand a lot of confidence that seagliders are happening. It's very heartening to see Monty put a lot of confidence in us, in the population of New Zealand, and also see that there is a demand for regional transport around the country. I mean, the beauty of seagliders, as we've always said, we've got this massive piece of infrastructure around the country, which is the water. It doesn't break, it doesn't crack, and I think it's underutilized at the moment, so we've got an opportunity to really make the most of it.
Why do they see this as a lucrative investment option?
Multiple reasons. Number one, their focus, like ours, has been on regional connectivity and sustainability. They've also identified a gap in, if you were to call it high-speed transport. If you look at aviation, the smallest aircraft out there at the moment is probably a 80, 90-seater. Which is not conducive for some of those regional routes. It's not economical. So I think one of the things that Regent have done well on the Viceroy, which is a smaller model, is kept it to 12 seats. That's, I think, perfect capacity for regional routes in New Zealand especially. Secondly, they see a gap. Look, it's no hidden fact that in New Zealand, transport monopolies are there. And I think this gives an opportunity for a new transport mode to come out into the market and hopefully make it more sustainable, affordable, and comfortable for people to travel around the country.
Are you getting a lot of interest from regional providers, regional ports?
We are. We've been, in a positive way, very surprised and very welcomed by the ports. And, they will be probably one of our largest stakeholders, especially from an infrastructure, docking, terminal space point of view. So we've received a lot of positive reception from them. We started all around the country. Northland has been one of those places where the port CEO, the councils of Northland, the EV, the local communities have just welcomed us with open arms. And, all the conversations we've had with them to date over the last 2 years have just been phenomenal.
Are you sticking with your original plans of $700 million, or are you fine-tuning that or changing that at all?
No, absolutely. Look, I think once we receive the first shipment of seagliders and start operating around the country, I think there is potential to go beyond the $700 million is actually the target. Because the reality is, look, the total order book of 25 seagliders, they work the way we anticipate them to work. I don't think 25 will be enough to cover all of New Zealand. I think we'll need another shipment of 25.
How do you forecast that demand?
Look, we've spoken to local councils. That's been a big one. Because it's well and good for us to sit here and say that a region needs to be connected to Auckland without talking to the locals. But speaking to the local councils, the business community, and seeing what their kind of issues are at the moment in terms of traveling. If you take the North Island or a part of the North Island at the moment, and I'll name a couple of cities like Whangarei is one of them. We've seen the Berdermans being closed. That's cost them about 14 million on a daily basis of economic loss. If you look out to Coromandel, when the last set of floods came or high rains, that highway into Coromandel was compromised. So they essentially were cut off from the rest of the country. Then you look out further, there's some of the smaller islands like Wahiki, Great Barrier. But then as you move down the country, you've got Whitianga, you've got Tauranga, some of these places that need that high-speed, fast connectivity into the main centers without costing them an arm and a leg. So when we talk to all these regions, when we talk to their local business communities, people who need to travel for life events, education, healthcare, there's a real gap in the market for that fast, high-speed, affordable transport. And I guess that's the gap we're trying to fulfill with these sea gliders.
And who are your ideal customers going to be?
Look, we're in a perfect world. I would say everyone who needs to travel where we're operating a sea glider, we welcome them with open arms. But I think we're going to get a good mix, you'll see, of business customers, corporate customers, and then you're kind of, like I said, people who need to move for life event services such as education and healthcare. So I think the demographics are going to be widespread, which is good because we're not targeting this at a specific demographic. And going back to the affordability point, I think the affordability point here is key because all demographics, we're making it affordable enough where all demographics can travel and should travel.
And is Monty committed to further funding beyond this?
Monty is, absolutely. They're viewing this as a starting point with us. This is not the middle or the end. This is just a starting point. And once we start receiving the sea gliders come mid-decade, I think we can prove not just to Monty but to the local market, to people that look, there is a real need and a demand. This is one of those things, I guess, as humans, when we get used to doing certain things in one way, till you bring about a change and you showcase to people that there's a better way of moving or transporting. Then people realize that, look, there's no need to sit on the roads for hours and hours to drive to places when we can use the sea gliders. So Monty is committed, we're committed, and we look forward to a very strong relationship with them over the coming decade.
What has the feedback been from the new government, given they've put a large focus on roads and transport?
We've had some good conversations with them. We were lucky enough to engage with some of the key ministers before they took office as well. So they're aware of what we are doing with the sea gliders and how it will benefit the local communities. But we look forward to further conversations and, I openly invite them to come engage with us and see where we can take this. This is an interesting one because this is an infrastructure play. Yes, we need wharf space, docking space, we need charging infrastructure. But I'd like to just say that the amount of, capital we need to spend on infrastructure and the return in terms of the government when we talk about moving people or improving accessibility or improving regional economic development, I think the return is almost tenfold because we're not utilizing hefty roads. We don't need that. We don't need rail tracks. We don't need runway landing strips, which can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. We're making use of the natural infrastructure that sits out there in the open waters. And I think that's the beauty of the sea gliders.
Is this infrastructure spend also part of the Monty funding, or is that additional?
Parts of the infrastructure spend are part of the Monty funding. So to give you an example, Monty do fund the charging infrastructure side of things. They like to bring a package solution to their customers, which has been really good. So there is a bit of infrastructure funding built into this as well. But the key announcement today is for the funding of the first set of sea gliders, and I think that's huge.
Shah Aslam, thanks for your time.
No worries. Thank you very much.
To support our award-winning independent journalism, subscribe to nbr.co.nz.